Hey everyone, it's Brian here from Massey's Main Entertainment, and it seems like a lifetime ago that we actually got all four of us in the same spot in time and place for just a moment here, and we managed to get back in here doing this long-awaited list that we wanted to do for quite some time, which is the top 10 movies of Clint Eastwood. Joined today by my buddy Doc. Doc, who is getting actually he'd be one of all of us who are kind of bracing for storms here. And his Vikings were eliminated yesterday. Very sorry to hear that, Doc.
Yeah, I'm sure you are.
And Randy from out the Midwest, I guess he's getting ready to get a little bit of snow himself. Congratulations to your Chiefs, Randy.
Thank you.
And Rich, you got to play second fiddle to my boys, but thank you for joining me. Glad your Eagles still made it. Hope they enjoyed their free time in Tampa before the game anyway. So, at least be something happy. So, yeah, we're going to do the top 10 movies of Clint Eastwood. And what we're going to do is each one of us will just count down. Each one of us will count down from 10 right to 1. Talk a little bit about the movies that they want. You don't have to talk long. You don't have to talk short. It's really kind of up to you. You know, maybe save the best for last as you're talking about maybe your top 3 or something like that. The order tonight will be myself. I'll kick it off, and then Randy will go, and Doc will go third, and Rich gets the back cleanup for Mr. Clint Eastwood. So, guys, can you give me some type of indication about how you felt about this list? Easy, hard?
It was pretty hard. I kind of admire how he has developed as a director. Clint Eastwood has
yeah
through the years.
Yep.
I would say exactly that. Yeah, exactly what Randy said. He's pretty diverse in his directing. The way it's the top 10 Clint directed movies, right? So it's what have you? He's got quite the spectrum of what he's done, and it's actually, when you get down to it, it's pretty impressive. Man, he's got quite the catalog to draw from as well. So yeah, it was pretty tough to do.
Yeah. Very strong filmography. I think 39 films is what I counted that he's directed. It's a lot. You know, and that doesn't include his starring and, lead actor
stuff. Producing and stuff like that. So
yeah, so this is really fun to do, and glad to be a part of it.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to have you guys back. So before we get started, I just want to remind everybody to check out our other movie series that we have. We've been doing from 1965. We're working our way to 1979. Starting next week, we'll be doing 1975 as we're counting through that. Please like, sub, comment down below. Give us your top 10 Clint movies. Directing, not acting, directing. Let's make sure that we understand that one. And, share your thoughts. We really appreciate any support you guys can give us. So I guess I'm starting it off tonight. I said I was going to be brief, mostly because I don't have much of a voice. Just kind of got over a little bit of influenza a couple weeks ago during the Christmas season. So even that voice hasn't really come back yet. So I'll start mine off. Number 10 for me is kind of like a personal favorite. I've got Clint Eastwood's Firefox from 1982. Wow. I kind of like this one because really it's kind of a sci-fi movie in a way. He plays a ex-Vietnam War pilot who is tasked with stealing a high-tech airplane Soviet fighter jet called Firefox. And the reason that they choose him is it's a thought-controlled airplane, and he has the ability to speak Russian and think Russian. So they task him to do this. One of my favorite scenes, I remember the trailer for it. It has some Russian dignitary on the microphone saying, "I am speaking to the individual who has stolen the property of the USSR." I thought that is the worst. That was the worst impression of a Russian that I'd ever heard. So I thought it was kind of campy, but it was kind of cute. So I put it at number 10. Number 9 for me, I got Letters from Iwo Jima here. I thought that this was like a real indication of Clint's growth as a director over the years. This one presents the Battle of Iwo Jima, but from the perspective of Japanese soldiers. Kim Watanabe's in it, and his soldiers are trying to defend against the American forces. And then, like, everything that we get, the information we get through letters and flashbacks, and and most of the information is just really kind of talking about them on a personal level. I thought it was really good, very entertaining. So. Number 8 for me, I've got The Mule, which is kind of a newer one of his from 2018. He plays Earl Stone, this horticulturist that kind of always put his business before his family, and ended up losing most of his family, and at least ties with them and everything. And as his business fails, he decided that he wanted to transport drugs for the Mexican cartel. And hold on a second, guys. Ooh. So he knows there's good money in it because of his age and clean driving record. He was like the ideal candidate and everything. And then toward the end, he's given a moral dilemma because his wife falls very ill and she's terminal. And he ends up choosing to be with her in her final days rather than like honor his commitment for a timeline for a particular drug transport. So very, very poignant movie. I love the song by Toby Keith in it, Let the Old Man In. I thought that was just a really great song. Very, very powerful to kind of go along with the movie. Number 7 for me, I've got Invictus. This is the one starring Morgan Freeman as Nelson Mandela after he serves those 27 years in prison. It comes out like a couple, 3 or 4 years later, he's elected president of the nation, and he's looking for a way to kind of unite the nation. And he reaches out to Matt Damon's character, Francois Pinier, to try to unite the nation through rugby. And the movie talks about, capturing the racism of the time and trying to bridge gaps between not only the race, but trying to heal the nation from all that history that it had. None of it good. So I thought it was really good. I especially like the poem that he kind of reads over at the end, where he talks about, I am the captain of my fate. No, he said, I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. Really great poem if you ever get a chance to read it. Number 6 for me, I've got American Sniper from 2014. This is obviously based on the Navy SEAL Chris Kyle and his tours of duty in Iraq. Bradley Cooper does a fantastic job in this movie, playing a sniper with lethal accuracy. Narrative kind of explores, his struggles ethically as a sniper and the impact it had on him personally and his family and the trauma of the whole thing. I thought this is, again, speaking to the maturity of Clint as a director, how far he's come. Number 5, I've got The Outlaw Josie Wales, maybe, one of my all-time favorite Westerns, set in the Civil War era, right at the end of it. He's a reluctant outlaw who decides that he's not going to surrender to the Union soldiers, and he flees from them and the bounty hunters and kind of picks up this ragtag bunch of people along the way until they all kind of settle down, finally making peace with themselves and maybe creating a family and some sense of normalcy in his life at the end. I thought that was a really good movie. Great cast. I really enjoyed it. Number 4 for me, I've got Gran Torino from 2008. This is he plays Walt Kowalski, Korean War veteran, ex-auto worker, and he lives in a neighborhood where he's kind of this ornery old man, kind of get off my lawn type of guy. And he befriends the Hammam family neighbors who are living next door, particularly the boy there, Tao. And it kind of delves into racism and redemption and cultural understandings that Walt has to confront and take a stance, actually in his own community towards violence. And it's really good. I thought that it was a nice slice of life type of movie, which it sometimes doesn't get the kind of love that it should get in Hollywood. But I thought it was great. Number 3 for me is $1 Million Baby. I thought this movie was really, really strong. Basically, the movie's kind of cut in 2 parts. It's the boxing portion of it at the beginning, where he befriends Maggie Fitzgerald, played by Hilary Swank, as an aspiring female boxer, and her grizzled trainer Frankie Dunn. That's his name in the movie. He takes her under his wing, and they develop this really deep bond and everything. But Maggie goes through a tragedy where she ends up paralyzed in the ring from a brutal hit, an illegal hit from an opponent. And then it explores the complexities that he kind of deals with about whether or not to honor her wish that she doesn't want to live as a paralyzed person. And it really kind of speaks on a religious theme, kind of an emotional theme. I thought it was really good. Like I said, though, it's really kind of heavy toward the end and not for everybody. So speaking of not for everybody, very heavy movie for me anyway. I have only seen it twice. It's really hard for me to watch it over and over. But Mystic River, I've got number 2, the crime drama that stars Sean Penn as Jimmy Markham, and then Tim Robbins as Dave Boyle, and Kevin Bacon playing Sean Devine. They're all childhood friends, and they have this tragic incident that happens in their youth that all affects them in very different ways. Obviously, another tragedy, brings them all back together later when Jimmy's daughter is murdered. And as the investigation unfolds, Jimmy thinks Dave, because he had been played by Tim Robbins, had been abused in the past, that maybe he was the one who did it. And this kind of explores that dark side about how even friends who are really close when they were younger kind of spread apart and go into different types of lifestyles. No other better way to say it, I guess. A very intense performance. The beginning of the movie where they find his daughter's body, the performance by Sean Penn, I think, is maybe his best performance, just in that little 10-minute span of his entire career. I thought he was wonderful in it. But number one for me is going to be The Unforgiven. I think it really is the epitome Western that really kind of stripped away all the romanticization of the Western outlaw that we've been kind of exposed to up until that point. William Money is a retired outlaw and widower struggling to kind of make a living with his two kids. He's desperate for money, and then this group of prostitutes are offering reward to men to seek retribution for these guys who cut up one of their own. And Money's persuaded to come out of retirement. He joins up with Morgan Freeman and this young kid, and it kind of explores him kind of confronting his violent past, and it's about justice and maybe a redemption of morality of some sort. I think there's a really interesting correlation is that Little Bill, who is the sheriff, he kind of thinks of himself as the savior of the town, but whenever you see that he's building his house, he's not a very good carpenter. So I think there's a really kind of a religious parallel there between his inability to be a very good carpenter. Jesus, was a carpenter, and how he's not really a redemptive type of man like Jesus would be. So I think Unforgiven is his most powerful movie. So that's what I got.
Very nice.
Very good. Very good list, buddy.
Thank you.
Very, very nice. I liked all those movies except Firefox, but that's a worse one. 9 out of 10.
One sci-fi movie, right?
Hey, I'm going to add one of those too. So we're all very good list. I love it.
Yeah, I'm going to have a few different ones on mine, but
that's good.
My number 10 is Play Misty for Me. It was Clint's first directing gig, but what I really like about it is he gets such a great performance out of Jessica Walter. So good, in fact, that she was kind of typecast after this role. It was kind of the original Fatal Attraction, but it's a really good thriller. My number 9 is, I also have High Plains Drifter. Or no, I guess, never mind. You didn't have High Plains Drifter. High Plains Drifter, it's a Western. Is it a Western or is it a ghost story? It's certainly about revenge and holding a town accountable. Clint Eastwood's character is only known as the Stranger, and it kind of leaves the viewer to guess his identity. It's a unique Western, like painting the whole town red and renaming it Hell. It's a fun watch. It's an allegory. I don't know, but I always enjoyed it. It's my number 9.
Yeah.
Number 8 this is where I have Mystic River. It's filled with tragedy and how this early child incident changed their lives forever. It kind of bound them in some ways, but then yet separated them as well. Right. It's got great performances by Sean Penn, Tim Robbins, Marcia Gay Harden. But for me, it just kind of seems to wallow in the grief and sadness a little too much. And then I think the climax, I feel the direction was a little bit uneven, and it could have been such a thrilling finale, and I didn't really think it was. So those were my quibbles, but it's still a powerful movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. We'll let that ride for now, Randy.
Okay.
We'll let it go.
And I'll agree, I guess. My number 7, I got A Perfect World. Starts with a prison break. It's got a kidnapping, and then in the end, it's and then also has two prisoners whose partnership ends. To put it mildly, but it's really about the relationship between the kidnapper, Kevin Costner's character, and this little boy. Yeah. And Costner as Butch Hayes sees similarities in the young boy as they both grew up without fathers around, and he feels kind of a connection to him, and he wants the kid to experience things that it doesn't look like he has been able to because he kind of has a sheltered upbringing. But which makes this movie more like a road picture. But I also really like Laura Dern's portrayal of a psychological consultant that's kind of making her way in the boys' club of law enforcement. But I think it's a very well done movie.
Mm-hmm.
Number 6, I've got Gran Torino, which actually was my very first car. My car looked my car was that car, but it didn't look as nice as Clint Eastwood does in that movie. But I had the same stripe and it was green, just like that. But it's a very engaging movie. Eastwood has one of his better directed performances. There's a cantankerous widower who enunciates a lot of racial stereotypes. But however, that Asian couple next door that moves in next door kind of wears him down to the point that he even says that he has more in common with them than his own family. But and I really like the connection that develops between the characters, the girl and the boy, and it's got a very powerful climax as well.
Yeah.
All right, number 5, and maybe none of you are going to have this one in here, but we'll see. I have The Bridges of Madison County. Not really my type of movie, but I just watched it recently, and it's got these great acting performances. And what I like about the movie, it's about adults. I mean, it's about Meryl Streep. She's in her 40s, and Clint Eastwood's even older as the photographer. Some people say that actually this is the closest movie that Clint to portray his own personality in it. But it's also set in Winterset, Iowa, which I've been to, birthplace of John Wayne. But I think it's more about dreams and how responsibility often conquers dreams, especially in that time period.
Interesting.
Great romance too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
My number 4 is The Outlaw Josie Wales. It's an oppressive Western. But it's like you said, it's kind of a road picture as the people he picks up along the way. I really like Chief Dan George's performance in this, and he said that he didn't surrender either. That when they were making the Native Americans move, he says, but they made his horse surrender. So, and Clint Eastwood's always spitting, even spits on the dog.
Yeah.
And the guy and the person that plays kind of the bad guy in the movie is the squeal like a pig. Bill McKinney is the adversary.
Wow.
But it's got beautiful autumn cinematography by Bruce Surtees, and I think it's a great Western.
Yeah, it is great.
My number 3, and it's one I just watched recently. I was just very impressed with it. It's Letters from Iwo Jima.
Yeah.
Looks at the battle from a Japanese perspective. And one of the most telling scenes, I think, in that movie is when the general, played by Ken Watanabe, reads the captured soldier's letter that he has on him, which was written to his mother. And then the other people kind of realize that they're not that much different. It's just a very compelling movie. It's one, that's mostly in Japanese, but you get so wrapped up in the movie, you don't even think about that you're reading the subtitles. But I thought,
yeah, it's a good movie. Really powerful.
All right. My number 2, and one that I avoided watching for a long time because I knew what the ending was, and that's $1 Million Baby. But Hilary Swank gives an amazing performance in that as Maggie Fitzgerald. It's got some fantastic boxing scenes, maybe some of the best since Raging Bull. Eastwood's also great as the cranky coach, like you said, and has some uncomfortable questions to ask. But one thing I always wrote down is Eastwood's character doesn't want to coach a girlie at the beginning of the movie, but in the end, he will do anything for her.
There you go.
True.
And it looks like we have the same number 1 because I've got Unforgiven as well. kind of takes a unique look at the myths and ethos of the Western, and the violence that's kind of goes on in it. Love how, Eastwood sticks it out where Martin Freeman just, he's had enough of violence and he has to return. But it's a classic Western when not many were being made.
That's bang on.
Awesome.
Definitely bang on. Yeah, you guys hit number one the same, right? So
we did. Hey, Doc.
A couple of curveballs, so I'm going to start off with a curveball then for me at number 10. So I got Absolute Power at number 10 for me.
Absolute
Goddamn
power.
genius.
Wow.
Me?
I said you're a genius. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. I think this is a great little political thriller with Clint as the thief, and at the wrong time to do a robbery, or the right time to do a robbery, however you want to look at it. But it's got some good twists and turns in there, and I think it's really well done. And look, I got a movie like this with Clint. I got Ed Harris, and I got Gene Hackman. I'm all in, man. This is top 10 for me, man. On Clint's got a lot of good movies, man. And you guys have rang off some good ones as well, and I'll touch on a couple as we go. But yeah, this could have been higher for me. I really like this movie. It's a really good flick, man. My number 9 is Invictus. I think, Brian, you had this one earlier too.
Yep.
Right, it has a lot of the apartheid thing, and Nelson Mandela and everything else going on, and how to unite the country and everything else. So the story is the background for what's going on. And Matt Damon's character is really a solid secondary character, but Morgan Freeman's character in this movie, once you get past like the first 5 minutes of am I going to be able to handle this guy talking like this and doing this kind of acting for the first 5 minutes, let's say, you realize at the end of the movie that you just saw one of the best performances you're going to see in a long time, man. That guy is freaking fantastic. Mm-hmm. Invictus, I think, is an underrated movie in his catalog, and if you haven't seen it, I'd watch it. It's or revisit it again just to see how good it really is. My number 8, Randy, I think you had this. I got Play Misty for me here. I think it's his directorial debut, to be honest with you. So I think Clint shows a lot in this. He's in it as well, and I think Brian and Rich will attest to what I think about Jessica Walter's performance in this movie. As I have this ranked as probably one of the most underrated performances, maybe in movies. I think it's fantastic. You're right; she was pigeonholed as something that really didn't help her in her career. But she is the original Fatal Attraction, however you want to put it in that sense. But yeah, this is a great little thriller. He's just a radio guy, thinks he's hooking up, and it just goes sideways. And you see that later on when you watch, let's say, a Fatal or something like that, or other movies along those ilk. But this is the original, man. It's really well done, and kudos to Clint, I think. So I got Play Misty for me here. And number 7, I got the Outlaw Josie Wells here. That's where I got mine.
Wow.
The great anti-hero, vigilante hero is what I'd say to this. I would say on the directorial side, this is more one of his better looking kind of films in a lot of senses, just because of the spectrum and the wide shots, the bigger shots, and different things like that you see as he's making this. And it really shows he knows what he's talking about. He knows what he's doing when he's making these kind of movies too, man. And we can talk about that, and then we move on certain other things and how shots are done and stuff like this. He's got a real eye for the craft, man. He knows what he's talking about when he's doing things, and it doesn't get talked about enough, I don't think. He knows when to zoom in. He knows when to pull back. He knows how to let the actors do what they're doing. That part's great, but the other part is him showing you what he's showing you. And the Outlaw Josie Wells, like I said, the movie's fantastic. It's a top 10 for me on his directorials, but I think it shows really well visually as well, especially with the spectrum that it is. Number 6, Letters of Neil Jim, and I got it here. So,
there.
You guys have touched on it. I think the perspective of what it's like from the Japanese side during the war. It's got elements of the war side in it when you see it, and it shows you the war thing. Once again, this is really well directed. As a directing part, but the movie itself is really powerful. It really shows the human element side, and it's almost like an anti-war movie in a lot of senses because it has so much human element in it. It's a powerful movie, man, and one that doesn't get talked about again in his catalog that probably should be talked about more. probably along the same ilk again. I got American Sniper at number 5 for me.
There we go.
Bradley Cooper, underrated in this role. And I think the way that this movie is done, it shows you, the hardships and everything else of being a sniper during the war in Iraq and everything else that's going on in his life that he's doing on the war side compared to his personal life. The thing that really brings the movie together to me is, the editing and everything else in this movie is really top notch, man. So that's a lot to do with the director and stuff, but there's cut scenes that are going on, especially in the action in the streets and on top of buildings and stuff like that when the war scenes are happening. It's really high end, man. It's a great movie. The performance, Cooper's fantastic in this movie, man. And the way that they mold the stories together from his personal life back to the war, personal life back to the war, they really blend it together really well, man. Sniper's a great flick. American Sniper is really good. My number 4, I got $1 Million Baby here. You guys have touched on it already. Hilary Swank is awesome. Performances are, Clint's awesome in it, and so is Morgan Freeman. But that two sides, it's that almost like 2 movies in one kind of thing. I've got the element of the boxing and everything else, and then the human element, and the struggles of what I'm supposed to do and not do as a human on the other half of the movie or the back half. Tells a great story. It's the acting that really pulls it through. You touched on Randy, the boxing scenes and stuff like that. They really are top notch, man. Yeah. Hillary's kind of peaking here too. She's when she gets on screen, she's really good for a good 8-10 year run when she does show up in film. So this is one of them towards the end that she was still doing it, I thought. And it's a great movie, man.
Right in the heart of her run, right? I mean, she did Boys Don't Cry and this really close together.
Yeah. Gran Torino, number 3 for me.
Interesting.
I tell you, like a racist with heart almost is, impossible to say in one sentence, but it actually shows in this movie, I guess, in one sense, with Clint's character. It's a tough watch, Gran Torino, in a lot of senses, man. But in the end, his heart is the right spot. It's just, he's really rough on the edges, man, and there's no getting around that part. So, kind of like it's a tough watch. It's a great movie. It's poignant. I think it has a lot of good elements in it that are going to be relevant for a long time. I think Gran Torino would just stand out as one of those movies that you can watch almost any time. You can apply it at that time in your life. So, somewhat of a bit of a masterpiece in some senses, man. Gran Torino doesn't put up that high, but it's a really good flick, man. Randy's number 9, I believe, is my number 2. I have Mystic here. Mystic River. The acting is top notch. This is my take. Brian, you touched on Penn. Awesome. When we talked about it before, I talked about Tim Robbins on how he steals almost every scene that he's in. I'll stick with that. His performance is incredible. Just incredible. I think he won the Oscar for that too.
He did.
Yeah. You're right. It's a heartbreaking story from the beginning of the childhood side of things and how they, reconnect later on in life and what it leads to and the downfalls on that side and just not reading the room the right way that day, I guess, whatever the case, even bacon and everything else.
Right.
The movie's awesome. It's a heart-wrenching movie. It's, but once again, the scenes that you see, like in the streets and stuff like this, it's these pulled back shots where he's going to be in the spectrum of everything else. And it's an emotional scene, but he's pulling you away from it as you're watching it. It's stuff like that, man. That's really well done. Trifecta, I guess, out of the gate then, eh? Boy, so number 1's Unforgiven, man, for sure. Best Western movie I've maybe seen. It's going to be on my list here. It's going to be really high up. So,
right.
It's a raw look. It's a peeled back look of a Western story, man. This is, I think that's right. It's raw. If I was to say the right word. And I got Gene Hackman. I got Clint. I got Morgan Freeman. I don't need much more in a movie for me, if you want the truth. It's
they got a sign on them in front of Greeley's.
And there is those subtle hints and stuff like that. And the scenes that are like in the day scenes are the ones, it's the brightness, and you think there's like almost a sign of hope inside the movie.
Right.
happen, and it's raining, it's dark, and it's cold, and it's just dreary, and that's when all the shit goes down.
He starts drinking and cussing all within about 5 seconds. You know, you're going, oh my God.
Yeah, it really sets the element up for what is actually going to take place, man. So it's smooth, man. Unforgiven's a classic.
Yeah. Awesome. Great. Rich, what are you going to do for us, buddy?
Fantastic. All three of you guys. I like all your lists. They're great. I was just looking at the filmography while you guys were rambling, and out of the 39 films, I've actually seen 38 of them, which is pretty impressive.
Whoa.
The only one I've missed along the way is this thing called the 1517 to Paris. I don't know whether any of you have seen it. It's
no, I've never seen it.
About terrorists riding a train over in France, but I've missed that. But of the other 38, really strong. Even the stuff that didn't make my list, I would recommend a lot of it. Number 10, Absolute Power. Have it in the same spot that Doc did. I like this movie too. I gave it a second watch within the last couple of months. I love the cast, obviously, with Clint Eastwood as the jewel thief, sort of a cat burglar in a way, and Gene Hackman is the president. Laura Linney is Eastwood's daughter. They have an estranged relationship. Ed Harris is the cop. And you got Scott Glenn and Dennis Haysbert as the secret agents, or Secret Service agents. And even Judy Davis is the chief of staff. She's very powerful here, too. Very tense, suspenseful, beginning to end. Cat and mouse, cop versus robber. Very entertaining thriller. And I would recommend that pretty highly. It's my one personal pick here. I think there are some films I left off that may be better, but I wanted to include that because I really like it. My number 9 is The Mule. Brian had that earlier. Clint Eastwood as the lead character. You got Bradley Cooper as the DEA agent. Again, the 90-year-old Clint as the horticulturist who is involved in transporting a large amount of cocaine for a Mexican cartel. I mean, right away that sounds hokey and stuff, but it works in this film. He's got family issues, many of his own doing. He's estranged from people and money problems. He gets involved in this caper. Very captivating. Good character study. Deals with a lot of regret and forgiveness and even his own mortality, which I think Clint, as he gets older as an actor, has really upped his game. He's really effective in a lot of these more recent movies. And the next one is included, and that's number 8, Gran Torino. You guys had it. It's fantastic. I think Brian said it well, or maybe it was Doc. Get off my lawn kind of guy. I love that. I love that summation. And like Randy, I had a Gran Torino in my upbringing too, except it wasn't green. It was white with a red trim and stuff. But I love driving that car. Clint's performance here is outstanding, multi-layered, because he is sort of a racist at heart, and yet he takes some affection with the neighbors here. They're either, was he Korean or Asian or something?
They're Hmongs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. It's humorous at times. It's emotional. Tough as nails. He's a real hard ass. But that's Clint Eastwood. You got to take that into consideration when you're watching a Clint movie. And he's loyal to the people that are nice to him. And I respect this movie a lot. Gran Torino, excellent. Number 7 is The Outlaw Josie Wales. You called it a road picture. I love the spitting image that Randy gave, where he's spitting on these little cockroaches or bugs or whatever. He's nailing them out of the side of his mouth. Cinematography here is fantastic. I would have loved to have seen this movie in the big screen back in '76, but I've only caught it on TV. But you can tell the camera work, the location scenes, they're tremendous. It's got the revenge and the justice served up Clint Eastwood style. Arguably one of the better Westerns of the 1970s, if not the top one. Number 6, $1 Million Baby. What can you say about this movie? It's very, very heavy, very deep. It means a lot to me personally. Clint Eastwood, fantastic again. Morgan Freeman, top notch. But Hilary Swank, this is her movie, man. Very melodramatic side, but it works. It's a gut punch of a movie, and it sticks with you years after seeing it. I mean, it's hard. It's a hard watch, but it's rewarding at the same time. Number 5, I'm the only one that had this, and it's a companion piece to my number 4. And number 5 is Flags of Our Fathers.
Yeah.
The other side, the American side, the patriotic propaganda, the photo op on Iwo Jima with the flag. It's told from the American perspective. Very realistic imagery going on here in the storytelling with the flashbacks, and it's a little over melodramatic, but I like the film, and it does work with my number 4, Letters from Iwo Jima, which is superior in every way.
Yeah,
told from the perspective of the Japanese, which you've all talked about. Very, very powerful, and I love seeing both sides of the same battle, so to speak. A lot of times in American films we're showing our side of it, but this gives you the other perspective. Those caves and tunnels and stuff are brilliantly shot. It's bravery, courage, and valor from the other side of the war. Number 3, Play Misty for me. Clint's directorial debut. Had to have it up this high. I love everything about this movie. He plays that overnight radio DJ out in Monterey with the beautiful Carmel, California scenery with the rocky beaches and the waves. Pebble Beach, of course, the golf course is out in that area. And you got Jessica Walter as this all-time stalker, psycho. It's toxic stuff. And like Doc said, it's the original Fatal Attraction, maybe 15 years earlier, whatever it is. Jessica Walter, no doubt typecast. I recently saw her on, I think it was either a Columbo or a Mannix around the same time period. She's quite an actress, but this is her crowning achievement on film. Number 2, I've got Mystic River. It's one of my all-time favorite movies because I tend to overlook sometimes maybe the technical part of movies as far as score, cinematography, and editing. I'm an acting and screenplay kind of guy, and this has both. This has fantastic performances. Tim Robbins, even though Sean Penn gets a lot of the plaudits, Tim Robbins is on equal ground with him in this movie. His performance is very, you just feel his pain, the shit that he went through. The 3 childhood friends are playing street hockey in the beginning, and he happens to make a mistake and gets into a car with the wrong people, and it changes his life forever. And you flash forward, 15, 20 years, and eventually they all come back with this murder of Penn's daughter, and Robbins is the key suspect, but even his own wife doesn't trust him, which is interesting too, with Marcia Gay Harden. I like Kevin Bacon. He's got his own issues as the cop with the woman that is calling him from a phone booth or whatever, and their relationships on rocky ground. But Kevin Bacon and Lawrence Fishburne are excellent as the detectives. And you got Laura Linney as Penn's wife, Marcia Gay Harden as Robin's wife. That's a great ensemble cast. Suspenseful. There's a lot of retribution, shame, mistrust. A lot of stuff you can add to the film. But number 1 for me is Unforgiven. I think we all 4 had it in the top spot.
Yep.
And you guys really said it all. It's it's an old school Western. It's down and dirty, in your face violence. Gene Hackman, he's a great villain here as a sheriff. Nastiest character in the movie in a way. Clint goes toe-to-toe with him when he has to. It's got that internal conflict about taking another man's life, restoring law and order, and the corrupt sheriff by Hackman is amazing.
I like that he was making fun of English Bob.
Because
he's like, he goes, the duck of death. He goes, that's Duke. He goes, duck, I says. Yeah. He's just like, what to put him down that extra step, duck of death.
And the camera placement here in some of these shots are really amazing. What Clint does as a director, and that's why he's respected the way he is. Nobody makes a Western like Clint Eastwood. I'm sorry. Period. Yeah.
So excellent. Other than that, I only wrote down. We covered 16 different movies here. I only wrote down 2 other ones that were just outside for me, and that was High Plains Drifter and actually Cry Macho, which I really liked. One of his most recent films. I thought was a very good movie. I wanted to give it some consideration there at the end. I know you guys thought I was going to put any which way but loose on this list.
Billy.
No, that wasn't going to happen. Those were entertaining movies, but they're not in his top tier type of thing. So
Right. Yeah, he's got some other ones that, we could go with too. I mean, I thought I have Cry Macho. I like Richard Jewell too, that movie about the
the cop in Atlanta there that
I even like Space Cowboys. I mean, another ensemble cast.
Can't make fun of Firefox if you're going to like Space Cowboys.
I like Sully too with Tom Hanks. What can I say? It's just not top 10 material, but they're still watchable flicks.
Yeah.
You guys.
Any honorable mentions from you guys? Right? Randy, did you have some?
I did like Sully as well, and I forgot the other one that you were talking about.
Invictus too. I forgot that. That's a good one.
Yeah, Invictus was a good one as well.
Doc?
Oh, I had The Mule, High Plains, Perfect World. I had all those written down. And my other personal favorite, I like Sudden Impact, and I like Heartbreak Ridge, man.
I was wondering whether you were going to try to sneak one of those later Dirty Harry movies in your list there.
Good Harry movie, man. It is a good Dirty Harry flick.
Right.
Just a little. Oh, that's probably more watchable than some of these others I got on my list, but this is his top 10 list to me.
Yep.
Well, awesome. That'll do it for us. We got our top 10 Clint Eastwood directing movies, and we all agreed at the number 1 spot. And I think 3 of us had Mystic River at the number 2 spot, so that's pretty strong.
Yeah.
Be sure to like, sub, or comment down below. Please check out the other videos in our series from all the movies for top 5 movies from 1965. We're working our way to 1979. Also, go over to Rich's channel because he has some of the movie videos we did early on, and I like to go back and look at those and see some of the movies that I chose at the time for particular genres because I think it's kind of fun. And we were kind of in the infant stages of making those films. It was kind of interesting how those all kind of panned out. So until next time, look for our video next week. We'll be tackling 1975. And until then, guys, take care out there. All right. Bye-bye.
See ya.